Since Brodie's Law passed through Parliament earlier this year, workplace bullying is now illegal in Victoria. But it can be difficult to define. The coroner is investigating whether a young woman committed suicide due to harassment over an injury compensation claim. Cheryl Hall has this report.
Rebecca Wallace worked for Linfox Armourguard, counting coins in the company's Essendon office. On Melbourne Cup Day 2007, she lifted a heavy bag of coins and began on a course with tragic consequences.
She picked up a bag weighing over 32 kilos. And she came home actually that day from work and said to me, "Mum, my neck is killing me." In the next couple of few weeks, she was in really bad pain. I said to her straight away, "Go on work cover." She said, "No, Mum, I don't want to go on work cover. It's not good at my workplace if you're on work cover."
3 months after Melbourne Cup Day, Rebecca Wallace finally applied to Comcare for injury compensation, but she had difficulty explaining to her rehabilitation officer why she waited so long.
She would constantly ring Rebecca, say to Rebecca, "I think you're being a bit of a sook. I've had a bulging disc. Just get over it," basically.
Armourguard employees were insured by CGU. Vicky Pedersen says her daughter had trouble proving she had a neck injury and that it was caused by the incident at work.
She was constantly harassed from her workplace, the CGU, insurance people. In her workplace, it was just taboo. People shunned her. No one spoke to her. It's just taboo.
Linfox Armourguard says it had no knowledge of bullying and a complaint was never made. In a statement, the company says it was obliged to make standard inquiries about her injuries and the delay in reporting the incident had added complexity. On April the 16th, her claim was accepted and she was given a tailored return to work and treatment program.
I think she felt very alienated. She was in obvious pain. She wasn't smiling as much. It was obvious, she'd be touching her neck a lot and stuff like that. And I don't know, it was just obvious in her body, in her personality. It was just, she was in a lot of pain. And I think they just, I don't know whether they just didn't believe her.
Rebecca Wallace was finally told she had a slipped disc and the only way to cure it was to have an operation that could result in her ending up in a wheelchair.
The whole thing turned around. She went to see the doctors. Yes, you have to have an operation, but they're a risk. We're going to cut through the front, go through here. You could end up in a wheelchair. To take all that on board for a girl that's been told, basically there's nothing wrong with you and you'll be fine, I think it tipped her.
On July the 7th, 2008, 8 months after her injury at work, Rebecca Wallace took an overdose of her painkillers. She left this note.
"I'm sorry to do this, but I feel I'm stuck. My brain and body hurt. And all as I've ever worked for was a nice life. I can't see past this pain. I love you all and will be watching over you."
Thanks to her friend, Lisa Consol Magno, she was found in time and taken to hospital. But after 2 days, Rebecca was released from the Royal Melbourne and went to stay at her grandmother's place. 2 days later, she tried again.
I spoke to her that day and made a phone call and said, your friend's coming around, just wait for your friend to come around and stuff like that. And she did make a comment to me. She said, "Lisa," and this is after her first attempt, "I just don't want to live anymore." She goes, "I don't know what's going through my head anymore."
Rebecca apparently quickly got up about 4 o'clock and said, "I'm going for a very quick walk, I'll be back soon." She left with all her little warm clothes on and her scarf, and she walked down to a local walkway in Gladstone Park, and and hung herself there on a tree.
Rebecca survived for 5 days and her family made the decision to donate her organs. They're now waiting for the Victorian coroner, who is investigating the bullying claims and the sequence of events that led to her tragic death.
Why I'm doing this story is the work cover system sucks. I believe the insurance companies are bullying. I would love to know how many people suicide on work cover.
Lynn Fox Armagard declined to respond on camera, but say they believe Miss Wallace was treated fairly and her case managed appropriately. Rebecca was a valued employee and her death has affected many of our employees who knew and cared for Rebecca. Armagard sympathises with the family for their loss. Compensation lawyer Liberty Sanger says there's a culture in some workplaces that discourages injury claims.
I hear from many workers that they are either discouraged from putting in a work cover claim, or there is a culture that discourages putting in work cover claims. And there is a stigma associated with putting in work cover claims. So it does happen more often than it should.
Victorian Greens MP Sue Pennicott agrees. She worked for the ACTU before being elected to the Victorian Parliament.
Bullying is a very big issue in workplaces, and there's been many cases, high-profile cases, where people have taken their lives, unfortunately, but there's also a lot of walking wounded out there who are also the victims of workplace bullying. And as I've said in Parliament, there needs to be more done about this issue at a state level. I think it's the culture, but I also think the state work cover authorities need to be more proactive.
More often than not, helping an injured worker get back to work sooner is the best medicine.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Vicky Pedersen is hoping her daughter's tragic death may lead to change.
People might think I'm doing this because I'm a grieving mother and I'm just venting my anger out on whoever. But something went very wrong with the company, the bullying of the insurance companies.
And insurer CGU declined to comment. Anyone needing help after watching that story can contact Suicide Line on 1300 651 251.